Hi everyone, now let's start about logical operators in Python. We have not, or, and logical operators available in Python. So now let's see what does this not logical operator does. So whenever we apply a not logical operator on any object, it always return an opposite associated boolean value whatever that object is associated with. So like over here, this string object is associated with a true boolean value. So what will get in return? A false boolean value, right? And it always return this not logical operator a boolean value. And how do we check if a object is associated with any boolean value? With this bool method. Let's see, because now this a string object is associated with a true boolean value. So when we applied a not logical operator on this object, it returned a false boolean value. And by now I hope you have a good understanding what is this boolean value of different objects in Python. If not, then please check my video about boolean values of different objects, which you will find in the Python tutorial playlist, because that concept is a very important concept, and that will be based not only these logical operators but as well as your if statements, loops, and many more other things in Python. So now we know what this not logical operator does, that it returns the opposite associated boolean value whatever the object we are applying this not logical operator. So now let's see what this or logical operator does. So whenever we have this not logical operator, so let's apply on an empty string and on one. So it looks for, so it starts a kind of a left to right search and find an item which is having a true boolean value or true associated boolean value, and that object will get in return. So let's run this code. So over here it checks, is this empty string is associated with a true boolean value? No, and an empty string is always associated with a false boolean value. So it went and checked the next item. So now this one, and again now this one is associated with a now a true boolean value, so it immediately returned that. So same way, when we are having many items with it or operator, it starts a left to right search. So first it will check with this item. This item is associated with a false boolean value, so it went and checked the next item. So again this 0 is associated with a false boolean value, so again it went with the 34, but now 34 is associated with a true boolean value, so it will return that item and that search will stop immediately. So that's the reason we got this 34 in return. And I hope by now you already know what are the boolean values of these objects are without applying the bool method, because every object, I would rather say default object, is having a fixed boolean value, and it is a really easy concept to understand. So please check that video out. And now there's a bit exception of that you might find of this or operator when we apply this sequence of items. Over here, when we have a kind of a sequence of item and all the items are now associated with a false boolean value, so this or operator always look for a true associated boolean value. So what will happen in this case? Same way a left to right search will begin. So none, again to go with the next item. 0 is also having a false boolean value. Again this empty list is also associated with a false boolean value. So what it will do, in the end it will return the last rightmost item. So that's the reason we got this empty list. And same way, the way this or logical operator look for an item which is associated with a false boolean value, the AND operator look for an item associated with a false boolean value. So same way, a left to right search will begin. If in this case, so 3 is associated with a true boolean value, so it will go and check the 0. But now 0 is associated with a false boolean value, so the search will stop and will get that item in return. That's the reason we got over here 0. And the same way, if all the items in this sequence is associated with a true boolean value. So same way a left to right search will begin. So it will go and stop the search, and whatever the rightmost item will get in return when we apply this and operator, and when in this sequence all the items is having a true associated boolean value. So I hope by now you are having pretty good idea what this or and not logical operator does. And in the next video we understand the mix of these operator, what happens when you apply, where operator precedence comes in the picture. So make sure you subscribe this channel for just like more videos, and thanks for your support to watch this video. Bye bye guys.